Welcome to Locke Key Unlocked, a podcast about Locke and Key on Netflix and the comic books by Joe Hill and Gabriel Rodriguez. I'm Alex.
I'm Justin.
I'm Pete.
And we are going to be talking about Season 2, Episode 2 of Locke and Key, The Head and the Heart. Now, this is streaming on Netflix right now, so go check it out if you haven't. But brief bit of recap here right at the top of the second season. Eden and Gabe, two demons who are looking to do something, created a new key using some whispering iron. We find out exactly what it's capable of, or not really at all, at the beginning of this episode.
It does some stuff. It's doing something.
It does some stuff. And we find out a little bit more about that, as well as how keys are made as they try to do whatever their plan is, move that to the next stage. Meanwhile, the Locks are dealing with a couple of problems, specifically the problem that when you turn 18, you lose all memory of magic. So Tyler's girlfriend, Jackie, is slowly losing her memory here. Another big thing you should probably know is that back in the day, Rendell Locke, their dad, and all of his friends used the keys. They, as we reestablish here, did keep their memories, or at least some of them did, of the keys in different ways. That's something that we saw a little bit in the first season. And one of them, Aaron Voss, has been in a care facility for decades at this point. I believe we knew this, if I remember correctly, from, I can't remember honestly whether we knew this from the comic book or from the show, but I think
because you're over 18, that's why you can't remember anymore.
You've lost the magic of comic books.
I honestly don't know what we're doing right now. I'm just kind of on autopilot at this point. But Erin Voss was trapped inside of her own head by Dodge, who is also Gabe because of the identity key, this face-transforming key. So we loop back to that this episode. The other thing that we should... Well, I mean, we don't have to mention that Rendell died. Rendell died, and Nita is single. That's kind of what you do.
Big single.
I mean, but the other thing you should know is their job pre-death for Rendell was renovating places together. So that's something that she gets back to this episode.
He was Rendellating them.
Yes, he was.
Oh, boy.
That's very good.
Wow.
That's really good.
Dad jokes always.
And Scott, who is a romantic interest of Kinsey's, even though the Kinsey is technically with Gabe,
the good option,
applied to a elite film school in Rochester, not Rochester, upstate New York, unfortunately, Pete, but actually Rochester in the UK.
The real Rochester.
And so he is waiting to hear back about that. I'm sure there's a couple of more things we could talk about. Bode, the one thing I guess I'll mention is that Bode was good friends with a kid named Rufus, who since has gone to Nebraska. We haven't seen Rufus yet this season, but he is Sans friends at the moment, so I think that's something we pick back up with here. So let's talk about this. I think we were all really positive about the first episode and how it reestablished everything right at the beginning. But what about the second one, Justin? I think you were even higher on this one.
This episode is excellent. It brings all the elements together. We've got intrigue in between our villains. We've got we're going back into some history here. We are going. I mentioned this last episode. We're definitely going to get to see this production of The Tempest that we know from the comic books. But it mentioned in the last episode, mentioned the second episode. If you haven't read the comics, just know this is such a fun thing, and I feel like we're going to get to see it this season since we've already heard about it twice. The Aaron Voss stuff was super cool. I just thought this episode is moving faster than the first season, I feel like, and in a bunch of different directions that I find all very exciting.
What about you, Pete?
As always, I agree with Justin. I mean, also confusing. The part where they were holding up the it was like they were holding up the comic book, like, read the thing. It's unbelievable. If you're having fun with this show, like, why wouldn't you read this? Look at this cool Tempest stage that looked like it was ripped right from the comic. But I think what I'm really enjoying is the relationship stuff, like this Scott, Kinsey, like, kind of vibe is really nice. And
you ship Gabe and Kinsey, right? Let's not forget that. We established
you're a Kinsey shipper.
Kinsey.
Nope. How dare you?
Cabe? Hashtag Cabe.
Also, we should mention that Bode likes to be Hercules, and he's fantastic at it.
Mm-hmm.
All
Absolutely.
the time. Yeah.
So let's talk through some of these plot lines. I think we could start with the demon stuff since it is relatively separate. Again, we kick it off with the big reveal, the Goop Key. They unlock the Goop Key. That's pretty exciting.
The Sludgeonator.
The Sludgeonator. Yeah, they get this key, trap a sailor, Not a very hard thing to do, be honest.
Oh, come on.
Real quick. Sailor is a very. This
what'd
is a
you
man.
call him?
He's sailing
He's a
a boat.
fisherman. He's driving a boat called the Codfather, and he comes late at night by himself. Sailor implies some sort of whistling crew, happily swabbing the decks. This man is a boatsman. He's a
boatswain.
A boat driver. He seems like a nice guy, but he's a
He's
fisherman.
way too chill about rolling up on a stranger who hasn't moved the whole time.
Yeah,
And you're smiling evilly, mind you.
Yeah.
The Eden, yes. I thought this beginning was like creepy and sort of storybooky in a great way.
Fun.
And this poor fisherman gets baited into becoming a big old
Fisherman gets baited.
Wow.
Who saw that coming? He gets sludgified with just a couple bones hanging around, and that seemed to be not what they wanted. But I'm very curious what they wanted, because I feel like it was something close, but just not this.
Also, you don't stab somebody with the key. You got to like find out where the hole appears, right? Isn't that how it works?
Yeah, you got to try all of their holes. That's what you're saying, Pete?
No, I'm just saying that like he just straight up like shivved them with the key. Like, what'd you think was going to happen?
You're saying every hole is a lock that you have to unlock. Is what you're saying, right, Pete?
Nope, it's not.
You're always telling me to unlock my butthole.
What?
Right?
I have not one time said that.
Every time you go to the bathroom, you're like, "Oh, time to unlock my butthole."
Oh my god. That's the worst.
That's
as long
you.
as it doesn't
That's
make
not me.
that noise.
I've never said that.
As long as it doesn't make that noise.
Yeah.
Oh.
Awful noise. We speculated a little bit on the last podcast that they were trying to do maybe some sort of death key, given that they sludgeonated this guy. I don't think it's a death key. I think it does something else.
It's a demon key. It looks like it turns you into like a monster or something.
Yeah, maybe it reveals, it becomes a way of vesseling people in a different way. I don't know, but yes, I don't think it just kills people, but it must do something that transforms them in a way that we just don't know about yet.
Yeah, and we do get good stuff over the course of this episode. There's also the big reveal here that they have Kinsey's fear being held hostage in the shack, which is pretty cool.
I love that.
And the fear loves sludgy bones, it turns out. Like, loves to gnaw on it.
I mean, that's a good metaphor.
Sludgy bones. Yeah, there was a beautiful 90s
beautiful
pop
words.
song. Yeah,
yes, beautiful words there. Well, what do we think about the rest of what's going on as Gabe? We can kind of, I think, talk through the Gabe and Eden stuff separately because it does very much run on its own track, even as it does intersect with these other plot lines. But Gabe spends most of the episode trying to find out how to make keys. And I think the big moment here is when he doesn't get the information from Kinsey at their big date at... Was it Steve's Pizza?
Stan's Pizza.
Stan's Pizza.
Huge date. What a flex.
Yes.
Huge stance.
I mean, he was having fun with it. He was poking fun at the fact that he got a reservation there. I thought that was a cute moment, even though I'm a Kinsey chipper personally. So,
come on.
I'm with
You and
Pete on this.
No,
You and Pete
stop.
are huge.
Yeah.
Maybe
But
they're going to work it
it
out.
was very cute, even though he didn't find out any information about the keys from her. He had that freak out moment when she was trying to get inside of... What's up, Pete?
He got the information. She let it spill that, you use the ghost key to go to the graveyard, talk to the old ghost, and you'll get the info.
Yeah, Chamberlain Locke is there, and we do get that
just
big
hanging
scene
out.
where first he tricks Bode, which very fun montage. I love the idea that he's like, "Oh, I got Kinsey her favorite Dr. Pepper and Twizzlers."
Yeah. And let me say, Dr. Pepper and Twizzlers, that would get me.
Oh man, that would get you
That's
so
JT
hyped.
bait. That's JT bait.
Me too, 100%. Dr. Pepper, really good soda.
Best soda.
Not the best, but good.
What's the best soda, Pete?
Mountain Dew all day. What are you talking
That's
about?
wrong.
You are
That
a
is wrong.
Come on.
psychopath. Your
Come on,
taste buds
man.
are an electric guitar riff from the mid-90s.
Dr. Pepper is one of these sodas that I never, ever have because I never remember it exists. But every time I have it, I'm like, oh, this is good. This is good stuff. And you got to take the Twizzlers, you bite the ends off, use it as a
use
straw.
a straw, sure, yeah.
Good time. That's a good time.
I used to be able to open a Dr. Pepper and have a little joke, or you would win a free one or something under the cap. That soda was speaking my language.
Wow.
Good times. You definitely would have been taken in by Gabe, though, as you mentioned. And as I mentioned, very fun montage. They use the Hercules key. They use the mending cabinet. I love that. I love them just having a good time with the keys, even though Gabe obviously has an ulterior motive.
Oh,
Well,
man.
especially like a montage like that where it's like, all right, let's break something. And it's like, let's fix
Fix
it.
something.
Let's mend it. I love that sort of rebellious to a point. And then let's cautiously put it back where it belongs.
Yeah.
'Cause you won't get
Whenever
in
my
trouble.
parents went away, I would always clean up their party is the thing that I do.
Yeah.
And they'd be like,
Wow.
better be messy by the time we get back.
You're like, yeah, you were a reverse teenager, essentially.
Yeah, good old inside-out teenager. But then ultimately, Gabe is trying to trick him into using the ghost key. I loved the horrible line. What does he say? Something like, see you later, you little shit, or something
Yeah.
as he's flying away.
You little asshole, yeah.
Yeah. And then he talks to Chamberlain Locke. Now, let's talk about the scene because I think there's a couple of interesting things that happen here. First of all, we get to see Chamberlain Locke again. So now we know he's just a ghost, hangs out of the family graveyard all day long, waiting for people to talk to.
Please, somebody go talk to him. You know what I mean?
It's very like role-playing game character where you go to the same spot and he's like, hello, I say similar things every time you come here.
Oh, I didn't see you there. Would you like to talk about keys,
Yeah,
graves,
exactly.
or goodbye?
Exactly.
But there's another thing going on in the scene other than Gabe finding out how you make keys has to be with a drop of blood, which is a new thing for the TV series, not for the comics.
I like that though. I think
Right,
that's
yeah,
cool.
but also that's going to be hard, right? Because he can't use his blood because he's an echo, right? So, like, that's an interesting wrinkle in his plan.
You're always saying can't get blood from an echo. That's your famous catchphrase
Yeah,
after
yeah.
unlock my butthole.
Oh my God. The fact that you couldn't even make it through that sentence without laughing
I'm
is
very
what's
embarrassed. I'm very embarrassed I brought it
angry.
up.
That was your yearbook quote in high school, right? Knock my butthole. Yeah, you almost couldn't graduate because of that, right?
No, that is not correct.
Well, the other thing that I wanted to mention of the scene, though, is there's a very weird shot where it looks like it's from behind some trees watching them. What do you think's
Yeah.
going on there?
Well, that made me think it was just meant to cast some suspicion on this scene. Like, it feels like Chamberlain, while is very upfront with information, feels like he's maybe a little bit more aware of what's happening here, and that maybe he doesn't trust Gabe as much as it seemed from the what happened in the scene.
Yeah, I was trying to think of like either somebody's watching or maybe there's a key over there or something that's like going to be important later.
Yeah. Well, whatever it is, by the end, he seemingly has the information how to make a key. They're just going to need probably some more whispering iron, so I guess we'll find out about that and what's going on.
I did like how he was like, you went near the caves. That's not a good idea.
Mm-hmm.
Well, but also to me, that's where I think Chamberlain was like, that gives away the fact that he might be related to what's coming through the black door.
Oh, yeah.
So like I that's what I'm curious about, if we're gonna find Chamberlain, who, if next time Bode shows up, is like, hey, that Gabe dude's gonna kill you, or like whatever. And Chamberlain just doesn't have a lot of agency to just show up at the house with some new info.
Yeah.
That's why you always got to go out and talk to your ghosts. Like,
Always.
don't wait for the
Always.
ghost to come to you. Go check in with your ghosts.
Yeah, you go
That's
knock
why-
on the door, bring a bunt cake. They love that.
When
A
I'm
ghost bunt cake.
Yeah.
playing a video game, too, I constantly talk to the NPCs just in case they're going to change up what they say. I like to make at least 3 to 6 rounds
Talking
just to see
all
what
of
changes.
NPCs.
Yeah, if you guys
You're
want to come
a
over and play
talker.
video games at any point with me and just watch me play video games, I'd love to have you. I think that'd be
Yeah,
great.
I'd love to watch you talk to NPCs the whole time.
Yeah.
We shouldn't talk.
No,
Us
no, no,
two
you're not
NPCs
allowed to
shouldn't
talk.
Talk to each other.
I prefer complete silence other than the NPCs.
Yeah, I
you're
live
working.
that life. I don't need to watch it.
Why don't we move on and talk about Tyler and Jackie, because this is a very sad, emotional storyline here.
Did the 51st dates move there with the video? Oh, that was so nice.
I'm sure that's what they wrote in the script.
Yeah.
50, they didn't even write the dialogue.
No
It's
lines.
51st date it.
Yeah, just come on. But they were so cute together in the video.
So the broad overview of the plot here, and maybe I'm forgetting some bits, but Tyler, they get a new teacher who's Josh, who we'll talk about in a second when we talk about
Smoke
Josh.
show.
Fuck that
Absolute
fucking
smoke
piece
show.
of shit.
Oh
Just
my God.
really
Fuck
bringing
that.
the
No
heat.
way, dude. Fuck that fucking asshole.
Oh,
I'm so
man.
sorry. There is something up with him, but he's
No.
bringing some
Dude,
strong
come on,
fall
man.
looks.
You can't
This guy-
trust a guy who has a miniature houses in his house.
No,
That's evil.
I have a miniatures of all your houses. When I first was dating my
creepy.
wife, I was like, it's just so I could imagine where you are when you're not near me.
Mostly Pete's unlocking his butthole in the bathroom.
It's exactly. Well, you believe me? I have that all represented in my dollhouse version with a fully unlocked, articulated butthole.
But yeah, this dude looks like he walked straight off of the set of Grey's Anatomy and onto Locke and Key. Very hot teacher going on there. But what we find out is a very fun line from Doug where he says that the new teacher always gives a surprise quiz. And of course he does, but this is bad news for Jackie because she's forgetting the magic. She doesn't remember the reading that they threw into her head through the head key door.
I think she does remember the reading. She just doesn't remember how it got into her head. So, because that's, I think, what Tyler's trying to do. Tyler's trying to say, don't worry about whether or not you read them. Just think about the questions. You will know the answers because it's in your head. You know that you didn't read it. That's what the stumbling block is, which I thought was a cool, important difference because he's trying to say the magic still works. You just can't perceive it anymore. And I think that's maybe a difference that will become important later on.
Yeah, either way, it was just kind of heartbreaking because she knew the answers if she would give it a try, and she walked it up there and was like, I didn't do the reading, and it's tough because like, what's he going to do? You know what I mean? He can't like stop and jump up in the middle of class and be like, don't let her turn that test in. So that was, it led to a better kind of reveal with the video. So I was real happy about that.
It is really interesting, and I know we talked about this a little bit the last episode, but I do feel partially with the way they're playing the Jackie thing is a dementia storyline, but with a teenager in this case, which is...
Benjamin Button in it, yeah.
Not exactly what I would call it. Benjamin Button is a very different thing than dementia, but...
Well, it's reversed. It's the teen, you know what I mean?
No, I don't think so. I think they're two different things. I don't want to characterize them as the same thing at all.
I'm not saying they're the same, but never mind.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Thank you. I'm glad it's okay. So she is forgetting this memory loss thing. I loved the video that they make for her to remember magic stuff. It also made me kind of upset and nervous at the same time because thinking about if you don't remember any of these things and magic keeps getting wiped out of your head, if you forget it, and then your boyfriend is like, hey, watch this video where we talk about all this magic stuff, and you also don't remember any of that, that's upsetting on a whole different level.
Yeah, we've 100%. Seen 50 First Dates, bro. We know how the emotional roller coaster is going to go.
First off, Pete, I feel like you need to see 50 First Dates 50 times, and you don't. You can just see it the once.
No, you can. If you really want to understand it, you got to see it the 50.
I agree with you, Alex. I think this strategy is not going to work, and is only going to be like more and more upsetting the more they go deep down this path.
But to the point that you were making, Justin, I like how this is played because it is played as a beautiful rom-com moment like Pete is talking about, and it works on that level. It only doesn't work when you stop to think about it for a second. So that's good. Like, I think they know that, and I think they're going to pay it off at some point later. So that's nice to see. Why don't we jump over to Nina's storyline since we mentioned that already? So what we get here is she is working on the theater. Again, reference to the whole Tempest thing. Josh, I believe is the name of the teacher.
Evil Josh.
Yes.
Evil Josh.
Evil Josh.
The most extremey McDreamy name possible.
Don't fall for that bullshit. He walks.
Did you see his chin? That is a chiseled chin, and he's got the right amount of stubble.
The stubble is strong.
Who effing cares? Did you see the way he talked to her?
He cares about sound fidelity. He cares about sound fidelity when it comes to.
That's not the name of the gig. She's trying to restore. She's trying to do some. He comes in there and he just because he likes wood, he's a complete asshole to her. What is his deal with the wood?
You must respect the wood.
Mm-hmm. Hey, there's a difference between respecting wood and then having evil little miniatures of big wood houses. So I don't know what the fuck his deal is, but I don't trust him.
I don't think you're supposed to trust him at this point, particularly given the reveal that he has a miniature of Key House sitting in his office. Presumably, it's his office where he has it. But at the same time, he puts off Nina by mansplaining how theaters work and how upholstery works to her. And then he immediately, upon seeing that they both have kids at the same school,
who are friends,
apologizes about it, buys her coffee, explains that he was wrong, shows her the carpeting and everything, and they have a nice, cute conversation. So I think you're not supposed to know how to feel about him yet. Pete, no. I know you're very much in the negative. Justin, do you think he's a good guy or a bad guy or somewhere in between at this point?
I think somewhere in between.
I'm only not calling you on Pete, because you have made your feelings very clear.
Yeah, but why would you sit there and say, oh, I don't know, he could be a good guy? He is evil as fuck and treated her very poorly off the jump.
But then if he was truly evil, trying to like win sway with her like the way that Gabe does, he would have never crossed her in that first meeting. And the way he made up for it by getting her coffee, having our architectural plans.
He wore her down. Things. It was like...
All I'm saying is I feel like the shot of him and Key House, of course we see that and we're like, that's bad. That's a bad thing for someone to have.
Yeah.
But I feel like they're going to find a way to make it maybe good. And I think what's going to happen is she's going to get close with him and they're going to have like a nice relationship. And then he's going to get straight up murdered at some point.
No.
Yeah, that seems kind of accurate
but
to me.
I also think the other side of this, which is the most important side, is Bode's friendship with the daughter.
What's wrong with that?
No, that's what I'm saying. Like, that's the important thing. Like, if Bode can have someone who's young and knows about magic, and now he's got somebody to fight the bad guys together, like the older brother-sister conversation on the bench when they were like, we're not going to be able to, we're going to get old, and then Bode's got to fight on his own.
Well, just to get back to Josh, and then we can talk about the friend. I agree with Justin here because the reveal of the Key House model definitely makes you think, this guy has a secret agenda. But I do think there's going to be a twist there in terms of we don't know exactly what's going on. No. The other thing that I think is important is he mentions that he's really into, I believe he says, Revolutionary War era New England, which we saw in the first episode. So if anything... He could be good, he could be evil, but I do think we're going to get some sort of reveal in terms of he has a crucial piece of information about that period and the origins of the keys and the black door and all of these things. So that potentially could be what's going on there, but I guess we'll see going forward.
Because if you sift through his obsession with wood, it wasn't even about the wood itself. It was about the history associated with it. And how,
but he was super aggressive about it, and it was... borderline psychotic.
I agree. We're meant to see it as weird. Nina was like, ooh, this guy's cute. This guy's an absolute smoke show. He stepped right out of an episode of Grey's Anatomy. Ooh, his stubble's really good. I mean, she went on and on mentally. We're just reading the
You don't know that.
Yeah,
that's
what she's reading in her mind, in her looks, because Darby Stanchfield is such a good actress that she's talking to me straight through the screen. Like me and Justin, she's talking to us all the 100%.
time. Nope. I paused it and I just said all those things that I keep saying. And I can't stop saying it. Like the word smoke show. I can't stop saying it. He's like a warm cup of a pumpkin spice latte every time I put my eyes on him.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what,
is fall coming, or is it just Josh, the new character on Locke Key season 2?
Yeah. I thought you were going to say something else after you said, is fall coming, or...
come on.
Gonna have to unlock something else other than my butthole for that one.
Exactly. Consider it unlocked. But what I was saying is, if you look at maybe sort of a reason why that scene, what it tells us about Josh, he's obsessed with history and his talk about the Revolutionary War. I think we're going to get something like Alex is saying about he's going to have some knowledge about Key House, and maybe in relation to the demon that walked out of the Revolutionary War cave and the black door. That we
he's that demon.
Yeah,
I don't think he's
that's
that demon.
He is that
his
demon.
Granddad.
Dad, check the timeline on that real quick. But I think maybe he is meant to fight against what comes out of there, and is someone who is maybe knows about it in a way that will help the Locke family.
But let's talk about...
Then he'll straight up die.
Yes, 100%. But let's talk about...
He's too hot for this world. He's too hot.
That's what he'll say as he's dying. He'll be like, I was too hot for this world.
And everyone there will nod their heads like, "Yup, you were too hot. You were a smoke show."
I'm gonna be sitting there shaking my head, saying,
"Bye, like a warm blanket of a man." You're gonna love him by the end of the season. That's my prediction right now. I don't know what's gonna happen, but something's gonna happen. You'll be like, "This is the best rom-com of all time."
And that's when he'll die.
Yes, I'd like to go on 50 first dates with Josh.
Oh boy,
yes.
Speaking of Josh, or rather his daughter, Jamie, who befriends Bode, I thought these were very cute and nice. I love the scene.
Loved it.
Love the scene of Bode being like, "Hey, try to take this key from me," and she's like, "All right." Takes it. He's like, "Great, you're not a demon. Here's all the information you need to know about everything." Yeah. Very fun.
It was fun, and I was like, "Is this a scientific test of that rule?" And it, I guess, was. But I was like, when she took it, I was like, "I don't know, man. That's not a good test."
Mm-hmm.
I thought every single part of this was magic. It was nice to see Bode kind of be able to make a connection with somebody and get somebody on his level. I'm excited to see if they team up, what they can do together and what's going to happen. It could be a little fun. The only thing I'm worried about is if the dad is creepy, you know what I mean? Hopefully that doesn't mean the daughter is as well.
I don't think she is. I think this is a chance to give.
She does seem absolutely fantastic. I'm excited.
Yeah. I was certainly worried in that moment that she was going to have her face change or something like that. But I think ultimately this is, Bode doesn't have a Rufus now, so this is to give him another friendship, another confidant to have around, because as usual, Tyler and Kinsey are off doing their own things and not listening to him, so he needs somebody to team up with.
Yeah. And it's great because I also think we learned that that Jamie's mom, Josh's wife, who no doubt was also a smoke show, died. And we don't know how she died, right? Like it may be something that is related to.
Maybe she said something about wood one time and he killed her.
Yeah, maybe she kept saying, "Unlock your butthole" on a podcast, and he killed her.
I wish if we were in the same place, I would punch you because you're over the line.
I am. It's too much. That's the last time I'm going to say it. 100%, definitely. So, what else should we talk about? We should definitely talk about. We touched on Kinsey a little bit, but everything that's going on with her. Oh, we should jump and, of course, talk about the big ending of the episode where they realize maybe Aaron Voss has some information about how to keep their memories. Love this sequence. I love that they devoted so much time to it. It was so well filmed, so well emotional at the end too.
Oh Good my stuff. God, yeah.
The way that it's scary inside her head. It's a flickering, empty high school. Everything's disintegrating. And I joked in our last episode about, what this show needs? More Locks. And Aaron Voss is a Locke. No E at the end. She is someone that they unlock in this episode.
Yeah.
And she is now going to be a part of the show, just that last moment of her looking at her hands, the way that, like you're saying, Alex, the way that the emotional stakes of her realizing she's been trapped and her physical body has aged all these years, everything she's lost, seeing Rendell's kids and knowing that they're not also her kids when she loved him, still loves him. I thought this was doing so much all at the same time while also being visually interesting and awesome.
Yeah, it was really impressive, the emotional roller coaster we go on it. And it was also tough because the whole time you're like, hey, you don't forget to ask about how do they get the memories? You know what I mean? Like, hey, I know you're dealing with a lot here, but we came here for a reason and we kind of saved you. So could you help us out with this thing? But man, she was so, I was really impressive. You saw the knife, you're like, oh God, what's happening? But then it was understandable and everything made sense. And it was like, oh yes, let's get her out of here. And it was this interesting thing where we had this other scene where somebody's dealing with getting older. And then we have somebody who's young and is dealing with oh, I'm old now. You know what I mean? It's like, sometimes you wake up and you're like, am I really 40? What the fuck? How did that happen? You know what I mean?
That became very personal right there at the end. But I absolutely understand what you're saying. And I think you're 100% correct to draw that comparison between what we were talking about with the Jackie pseudo-dementia storyline and also what's happening here, which I think works on the level of metaphor of a coma patient waking up and being like, oh my God, I lost all of this time. And we only get to see that, like you were saying, Justin, in that last reaction where she's looking at her hands. I guess a little bit when the young Aaron Voss is also looking herself in the face, which I know it's magic, so it would never happen, but I couldn't help watch that without putting myself in that position and think, what would that be like if you saw suddenly your older self decades down the road?
And you're like, I have to be this old person?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
But
I thought we don't really know Aaron Voss as a character too much yet. I thought that showed a great deal of bravery on her part to do that and take ownership of that and use the head key herself. I thought that was a really nice choice and made me very excited to see her character going forward in the series.
Yeah, and I hope she sticks around to be sort of the in-the-know mentor for the kids who clearly need it. And
I don't know.
I don't know. As a part of the story, I don't know where she fits with so much going on.
If you got like woken up out of this thing, I might just be like, okay, I'm getting the fuck away from all of this. Good luck, guys. Like, I don't know why you're playing with fire, but good luck to you.
Next episode was up with Kinsey asking Tyler, hey, where's Erin? And Tyler's like, oh, she left for Vegas like 5 hours ago.
Yeah. Or maybe we're going to get, not to stay on the theme that Pete established, maybe we're going to get a Billy Madison type situation where she goes back to finish high school.
Goes back to school. Wow.
But she already failed out, so she has to start at the beginning with kindergarten, just like Billy Madison.
Right.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
I would love
it's all happening. The whole Adam Sandler oeuvre is clearly on display in this series.
Do you think this is all a tease for Netflix's upcoming Sandman? Because Adam Sandler is the Sandman.
Oh, wow.
And they have a Sandman series.
Wow.
I don't know. I'm sorry.
We are clearly
I apologize for even bringing that up. So there were a lot of other things that we skipped over in the episode. I'm going to look through my notes here, but is there anything you guys wanted to call out in particular?
Yes, a couple things. First off, Gabe's fun button-down shirt over a T-shirt look is a personal attack, I feel like, on me in high school. Like, maybe I dressed that way a little bit. Maybe I am a demon. But boy, I felt exposed in that moment.
Wow.
I'm the only one. I'm the only one feeling that heat.
Maybe. Yep. Is this at the first day of school? Which I also thought was a very fun way of beginning the episode. I liked Kinsey showing up and Gabe showing her around. Again, I'm talking to Pete here as the big Kinsey shipper on the show. But I thought that was very cute. Also just liked all the breakfast stuff in the morning with Tyler and Bode.
Sweet.
That was... Yes.
Them helping out Nina. Like, it was nice to see the family sort of working together in a way that wasn't with their lives at stake. And then all the stuff where Kinsey's like, hey, I want to get in your head, Gabe. Like, I loved all that. The tension.
Yeah, that was like...
Gabe feeling threatened a little bit, being a little bit messing up, essentially. We see, like, Kinsey move fully towards Scott in this episode.
Yes, and I'm very excited about that. Like, she can barely keep it together when she's around Scott, which is making me happy. Here's the thing I want to talk about. Like, I was really impressed with a lot of the acting in this episode. Like, to see Gabe, this kind of like just vessel for this evil thing, struggle with I have to keep it together, otherwise there's no way I'll get anything from Kinsey. You know what I mean? To like, hey, drop it. Like, for a second, kind of have like a moment of like a little bit of like kind of anger there. It was really impressive, that balance that actor walked, and it really felt spot on with a lot of the choices. It made everything like the tension of the date, even though it was kind of like fun, like knowing that he had this agenda. So I was really impressed with that. And then the coma lady, Erin Voss, there was just that was absolutely unbelievable to see. Just the look at the hands moment was so fucking powerful.
We talked about this a little bit the last episode, but I think this episode really doubles down for me on the fact that Gabe actually does feel something for Kinsey. I don't think it's love. It's probably possession or some sort of negative emotion there. But I don't think he just wants Kinsey to have a lock under his, hold or whatever you want to call it. I think he really is jealous of Scott, and he really doesn't like Scott, and he really wants Kinsey to be with him. And like you're saying, Pete, I think there's a lot of interesting emotions that Griffin Gluck is the name of the actor, is playing there. That's really cool to see. The Gluckers? Is that what you just called him?
The Glucker, bro. He's he's nailing it.
The mother Glucker. I agree with you, and I think that may be part of what the sort of the key to the Skull Key is.
Oh boy,
it might
can
be
we
about
stop?
him. So sorry. It might be about him sort of becoming a real boy in some ways, because I do think one of he's jealous of Scott, and I think he's jealous because he knows that he can never love her. He can never give her what she needs to be happy. He can only lie to her and fool her for so long, and it's already unraveling. So I think that's going to continue to stress him out.
And it's also like this whole thing of like having so much fun with Bode, like breaking things and stuff. But then as soon as like out of the air, like, fuck you, you little asshole, or like just walking like, hey, I gotta go. You know what I mean? Like just cold enough that it's okay and like distance. It was just really impressive, the choices that they were making. And someone who loves the comic book so much, to see the show making all these smart choices with the characters, it's very enjoyable.
Glad you were finally able to put your love of the comic book out there, Pete.
Yeah.
Speaking of the comic book, though, something that was very surprising to me about this episode, getting back to Nina's storyline, is over the course of the comic, Nina is so broken and only gets more and more broken as things goes along. Even when she decides to give up alcohol and move past her alcoholism, she's still put through the ringer almost all of the time. The Nina on the show, at least right now, is not like that. She dealt with that in the first season, definitely came to a catharsis, but it's interesting to see a very different Nina on a very different path here in the second season.
Right, but also you're seeing like she's still struggling with stuff. Like they do this great kind of like foggy POV a little bit with her, where you're kind of like still feeling the fact that she's not 100% and can kind of like come in and out of focus a little bit, which I'm glad, you know what I mean? I'm glad that things are complicated and things shouldn't be easily kind of like, it shouldn't be like, okay, now she's just going to be with this Josh dude or whatever. Like, it's nice to see the kind of complexity, or at least the different levels to this character.
Yeah.
Another couple of moments that I liked that I wanted to shout out. Liked the beginning of Bode's class when the girl is showing off her picture of her summer where she got earrings, and Bode's like, I lifted a car over my head.
Oh my God.
Very fun.
It was fun. It felt a little, I'm curious, does Bode not know that that's not cool? I feel like he does know that. And he just wanted to do it anyway.
Yeah.
But it was funny. And he gets it brushed back by the teacher, and he's like, okay, lady.
But that's the thing. It's like he's like going on his way, be like, hey, listen, you can't tell anybody this is top secret. And then he's like holding up a thing in class, like, hey, I lifted a car and spun it around like a basketball.
Very fun stuff. Also, shout out to Zadie, who actually gets lines in this episode. We talked about this last episode, excuse me. Asha Brumfield is, I guess, the producer in charge of the Savinis is her job. Mm-hmm. So that was fun to see, her leading the gang. They decided to do a sequel to The Splattering. We still need to see the entirety of The Splattering. Netflix needs to release that, so we're going to keep pushing that every episode. And Pete, since the last episode, have you tried the cocktail, The Splattering, yet?
No, not yet. I will work on that. Thank you for being on me about that, though.
Yeah, no problem. I just want to make sure we have it perfected for the final episode of the season so we can really do a nice toast.
The barf episode that we're doing.
The splattering episode.
We got to find out that the Hercules key is a unisex belt. Looks good on everybody. Really?
Yeah, it works. Really good. Yeah.
What do you think of Abby? They exposed the keys to Abby, so she exposed Abby to the keys. Still don't know her role here. Very curious what's going to come out of this.
Yeah, like I said the last episode, even though it was nice to see Zadie talking again, and Doug had a fun aside about the surprise quizzes and some stuff in that scene as well.
Yeah,
I don't know that they need to add more Savinis at this point because they're a little overloaded as it is. No, I love them. I love the group. I want to see a Savini spinoff. Like, come on, bring it on. But they're not spending enough time with them in the episodes, you know?
But they will. They're teasing. Yeah.
I think Pete was right. I think Pete was right last time. I think they are going to be fodder. I would be willing if we could pick a couple Savinis that we think were going to make it through this season.
Well, we know Josh is not a Savini, but as the most handsome, he's going to be the first to die. So let's rank everybody in terms of attractiveness and kind of like put them that way.
Go ahead. I can't wait.
Go ahead.
I cannot wait for Josh to die. I can't wait for Josh to die.
The only way Josh is going to die is if he looks in a mirror and the mirror is so upset with showing something so beautiful it shatters when his beautiful eyes meet it.
Explodes.
I got an idea to throw out to you guys. I don't know if he's going to be the first to die, but I bet Doug dies almost exactly the same way he dies in The Splattering. Like we see Gabe splash him all over a windshield.
He's going to be dumping toxic waste in some kind of lake, and you think he's going to die?
Yeah, 100% exactly. No variations. Also, Gabe will be a giant lobster monster.
Yeah.
I mean, it's possible, I guess.
It would be really awesome if they did that.
Yeah. A couple other things. Huge One Direction slam in this episode.
Oh, yeah.
Wow. Later.
Shots fired.
Didn't know that we've turned that hard on 1D.
As a bunch of directioners on this podcast, we were all equally upset. Go ahead, Justin, with your next point.
Directioners, definitely the fan base for One Direction. How about that turtleneck on Gordy Shaw?
Come on.
Just dropping in there. He was the
What
understudy.
was the deal with him? That was
I don't know, but he was a weird character to introduce that we're not going to see again. So I think we will see Gordy Shaw again. And this also pivots to another theory I have. Are we going to see time travel in this season?
I don't know.
Because the Tempest has been established, and I feel like that could be a flashback. But I also feel like there's a lot of clues here about history. Josh is talking about history a lot. The giant rat skull could potentially be some ancient rat. That I think
the Rat King.
Jokingly, Alex. But it feels like we're in the neighborhood where we could get, even if they're not physically time traveling, they may be able to look back and sort of ride along with Rendell.
I think we could spoil something for the comic books, right? This is something that Kinsey and Tyler do. They find a key that are able to take them back through time, so they are able to see from the beginning of the history of the Locke of Key House, of the Locke family. I think it goes back to the Revolutionary War times, but that's pretty much it. So they're able to visit sort of in ghostly form and watch everything as it happens. That would be a bold move for them to do this season, but I would love it. And I think to your point, given that we've already seen the Revolutionary War, that we already have history, seeing them jump through those moments, that would be very ballsy as a move, and then also great because it would feel like retroactively, I'm sure there's a lot of things that they're setting up for that potential episode. If so that we loop back and we do see where the giant rat skull comes from. We do see more of this Revolutionary War thing.
It's like awesome. The Batman's penny. You're not going to see it for a while. All right, don't get it too excited.
Batman got that penny because he went to a gigantic penny arcade. And they ran out of gumballs, and he was like, well, better bring this back to my cave.
Yeah, somebody he was buying a gumball, and he was like, here's your change. Sorry, it's one big penny. He was like, come on, it's never going to fit in my pocket. I guess I'll become a Batman and have a bat cave full of penny.
Mm-hmm. Before we wrap up here, what was the key moment in the episode? Pete, I'll go to you first for this one. Key moment in the episode.
I just want to also just add, watching the ghost thing happen, from seeing it in the comic first, then seeing it kind of come to reality in the show has been really fun. I enjoy when people kind of use the ghost key and we get their kind of ghost form. I think that's really cool. Sometimes effects in TV shows don't line up, but I was really impressed with that. Okay, for me, the key moment was the bro sis hangout, talking about getting old, talking about Bode. I really like that. I like them talking about things and sharing experiences so that they can really. I don't like it when characters fight and are not at teams and they have the information that could help each other, but since they're not talking, I don't get it. I want to keep that moving forward.
My key moment is the Tyler Jackie stuff, the memory and how that relates to the Aaron Voss revelations we got here at the end of the episode. I think this is that's why I also feel like time and looking back in time, memory, it's all sort of, that feels like a season-long theme. And to have that come into focus now feels like it has that emotional heft while also playing so much into the mythology of Key House that I'm dying to see.
I feel like the key moment was when we first got to see Josh's chiseled chin come into frame. It was just really beautiful.
Unbelievable.
But as a second one,
I could draw it right now.
Oh my God, from memory. A close second, though, I would say, is Aaron Voss unlocking her own head, because she is just potentially such a wealth of information about absolutely everything from Dodge to the history of Rendell Locke to Key House to where the keys are. She may know how they can keep their memories of the keys past 18. This is a crucial thing that completely changes the series. Plus the fact that I'm just excited to see Aaron going forward, unless, of course, she skips off to Vegas. Either way, I guess we'll see Vegas, what happens. Baby.
Now, do you think that the Magic has an understanding of the arrested development of the modern adult and how, like in a lot of ways, people of our generation don't really grow up, and that people, maybe three men in their middle age, might still feel like children?
Why? Ways. Just because they're taping a comic book podcast?
It's a television podcast, which is very grown up.
Excuse me. Real quick, Justin, would you like any Twizzlers and Dr. Pepper? I have some right here.
I'll be at your house in 10 minutes.
If you'd like to support our podcast, patreon.com/Comic Book Club. Also, we do a live show every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. to Crowdcast and YouTube. Come hang out. We would love to chat with you about Locke Key. iTunes, Android, Spotify, Stitcher, or the app of your choice to subscribe, listen, and follow the show at Locke Key Pod on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. ComicBookClubLive.com for this podcast and many more. Until next time, keep your buttholes unlocked right here.
Release the splattering.
I have nothing to add.